We're 1 week away from what you worked so hard for.
It's NAIA football with Dannelly and Donley.
And don't you let a moment go without thinking about what's there for you to reach out and grasp.
The second round of the NAIA Championship Series is complete, and we are on to the quarterfinals. We even saw ourselves a couple upsets here in round number 2, and some matchups in the quarterfinals that have got us raising our eyebrows saying, ooh, that's going to be a good one. Want to welcome you in. This is NAIA Football with Dannelly and Donley. I'm the aforementioned Dannelly, part of that crew. Of course, I'm the guy from Victory Sports Network, coverage of NAIA football for over 20 years now, and a guy that coached in the world of NAIA football for 20 years, also was a 2-time national champion and multiple coordinators of the year. His name is Pat Donley. Hey, Pat, thanks for coming back into the show again.
How you doing, pal? Good Thanksgiving?
Good. Absolutely.
Yeah.
We had a little time beforehand to talk, but we didn't talk foods and stuff for Thanksgiving. Are you traditional at your family, or how'd you guys do Thanksgiving this year?
Yeah. Well, of course, we travel for hockey, as we always talk about. Yeah. So, the wife's family kind of does a traditional deal. It's fantastic. My father was actually the cook, and awesome. Yeah. Big turkey guy, big turkey and stuffing guy, kind of traditional stuff. So, I like it all, but in particular, those two.
We were traditional for years and years, and then we started trying just different. We'd always have a little turkey here, a little bit of this there, and try something different. Last couple times, Dad has smoked a prime rib, kind of started in the oven, put it on the smoker. That's always been really good. Yeah, as you're cutting open that pack of prime rib and you see the price tag on it, you're like, oh, Dad loves us. Dad loves us, doesn't he? Because
I don't think there's anything better in the world, though. Oh man, is it the best? If it's done right, it's the best.
Yeah, it's always good the way my dad does it. And I'm honestly super spoiled because my family, shocking, can cook some meats. And I hate going out and getting other places because if it's not phenomenal, I'm going, I'm not enjoying this at all.
People probably be surprised this, Jason, if you're this way. You will never, ever, ever see me order steak in a restaurant.
I'm about 90 to 95% the same way. Won't order a steak in the restaurant unless we're going to you're taking me into like a West Texas, like outback, like here's like a small town and like it's on the grill and you see the guy cooking. You're like, yes, I want a steak now. Yeah. Otherwise, like I want to try something else. I feel like I could cook a pretty good steak myself.
I order stuff I don't make at home typically.
100%. You and I are so much the same, man.
I know, buddy.
It's crazy. Yeah. It's like I could cook that at home, but what's this? Gator tail? Yes, please.
Giddy up.
So most people go ahead.
I was gonna say duck. I love duck.
Oh, duck.
You never make it at home. I can't.
If duck is made correctly, it's absolutely awesome. If it's not made well, it's garbage. And I'm like you. I will absolutely get down on some duck as well.
So good.
Most people that are joining this program are wanting to hear us talk about some NAIA football. Joke's on you. It's just 60 minutes of Thanksgiving talk now.
We can do that.
Some games. We could. We absolutely could. I mean, but there was some awesome games this weekend. Some that went exactly as planned. Some that I think were surprised to see the result of. And ultimately, I think the way that this week played out, I didn't see any major surprises as we take a first look at just, how things are going to pair up for next round. The quarterfinals were announced last night. Northwestern got that win. They've got a tough St. Xavier team. Grandview going up against College of Idaho. Kaiser's going to host Bethel, and then Georgetown is going to get Indiana Wesleyan. So some really nice matchups there. But Pat, going back to this first round before we get totally into all of the rest of the rigmarole, what surprised you most out of the second round games?
The Northwestern performance, maybe.
I would agree.
Yeah, it was kind of a stinker. just in general, just really, kind of a dull game. You give credit to Dort. I mean, I thought they fought hard, and they had opportunities in the red zone, Jason. They had a weird snap on a excuse me, early possession, second possession of the game, had the weird snap on a field goal try, got stopped on 4th down, I believe the second quarter inside the 5-yard line. So, kudos to Northwestern's defense, but there were some opportunities there for that to be an even different game. It's 7-0 game, but Dort had some opportunities. It was a cold game, obviously. It's this time of year, that part of the world, it's going to be standard. But, yeah, I was really just surprised at the score. I can tell you right now, that team that Northwestern's playing, coming in hot right now, St. Xavier out of Chicago. Look out. They're playing really right now.
I was not surprised St. Xavier won. I was more surprised at how St. Xavier was really up in that game, 31-7 late, before Marion got themselves a couple late scores, made it 31-21, kind of made it look a little more competitive. But for the majority of that game, St. Xavier, they were up 17-7. They got up 31-7 before Marion came back. And, you kind of had a chance to check out some of the highlights of that. St. Xavier was all over Marion, even knocked Zach Bundelow out of that game.
The pressure was insane. 10 sacks and double that in hits on the quarterback. I mean, it was ruthless. Kudos to Billy McKeon, one of the all-time greats at St. X there as a player and now as a defense coordinator for a handful of years. Just had some tremendous scheme. I mean, he really mixes things up well, Jason. Watching what they do from extreme pressure schemes to dropping 8 and playing pass defense and rely on their good guys up front to get some pass rush, and they do some unique things. I mean, it's never the same what they're doing, but they create all kinds of problems, and they are playing well on defense and timely offense. I thought they made some great throws when it mattered in the red zone, especially. They got down there and converted on touchdown passes down there. But I think right now defensively, and we're going to talk about Grandview, obviously, this St. X defense is scary right now.
It's status quo, Mike Feminist postseason team. You don't pay attention to the record. Fem will have his team ready. He'll have them going. They've been there before, and with this second round victory that X was able to get, it's going to be a heck of a matchup in Orange City between St. Xavier and Northwestern. That is going to be a tough one for the defending champs.
No doubt. I can't imagine playing for anyone more fun than Coach Femis. What a great guy. You're exactly right. Hit the nail on the head. I guarantee they are frothing at the mouth right now. They're so excited about this opportunity to play defending national champion.
Yeah, in the $1 million world, where actually probably be about a $10 million world, but if I ever had that world where it's like, hey, Jason, Victory Sports Network's your full-time gig, one of the first things we would do is I would fly into Chicago with a video crew, and we would pick up Fem, and we would have, Coach Feminist just take us around to all the great places to eat, and we would just eat all these different foods and talk football. It'd be awesome. But if that $10 million sponsor is listening out there, we'll take it, and we'll do some awesome content.
3-hour drive for me, buddy. I'll be right there.
Yeah,
I'm coming over. I'd love to hang out with them. Great guy.
Yeah, it'd be an awesome time.
Got to throw Mark Newell in there too, the OC. What a great legend there. I love Mark.
Yano's great. McKeon. Yeah. I mean, just an awesome staff. And, you watch how they've done that. They've really just, built that thing ground up there. And it's been crazy to watch the success St. Xavier has continued to have. So let's jump into the games. All right. So we started talking about this, and this, I put it first because it is the defending national champions. It's the number one team in the country, but it was also the most intriguing game. Northwestern gets that early score, and then really nothing after that. They were not executing very well on offense. They weren't really able to. They had some opportunities on some 3rd and longs to convert and keep drives going, and dropped passes. And yes, it was, as you mentioned, Pat, this was a cold weather game. There was some snow around, but this was better conditions than what they had against Morningside earlier in the season. And they didn't look like the same team. So I don't know if it's a little bit of that, week off lag, maybe the opportunity that you have to play another opponent again. And Dort's kind of got your number this time. It was not Northwestern's finest performance of the season. That's for sure.
Yeah, you nailed it. I mean, opening drive looked very normal. Northwestern Red Raider football, just clockwork, well executed, mixture of run and pass. Gramstead, again, mixture of run and pass, making plays with his feet as well as his arm. Standard stuff. And all of a sudden, it was just like, hit the snooze button. I mean, it was just a weird deal for them. Yeah, like you said, just poor execution. Did not look like what Northwestern has been for the last handful of years, certainly. So, and I agree with you. Being there, having to play someone twice in the season, it's just miserable. It really is. And just from a coaching perspective, I know it's a challenge, but you got to get through this playoffs. So I would expect a much, much better effort against a very, very good St. X team here, coming up here this weekend.
They're going to have to buckle it up and be ready because it will be a tough one. In this game, and like you said, it was kind of snooze fest. Start of the second half, Northwestern comes out. They give the ball to Connor McQuillan, and he busts out like a 12, 13-yard run. And I was watching the game kind of going, all right, here we go. But then it just never happened. So it's going to be interesting to see what Northwestern is able to get shored up this week to get themselves ready for that this very tough St. Xavier team. St. Xavier and Marion. Let's talk about it. Pat, you had a chance to see some highlights of this one.
Yeah, again, we mentioned him, quickly as we started. Coach McKeon did a tremendous job preparing that St. X defense for pressure schemes. Threw a lot at the Marion offense and Zach Bundelow. So just tons and tons of hits on the quarterback. It's 10 sacks. I mean, it's game-changing stuff. It seemed like Marion's behind the sticks so much, obviously, with those sacks and the cumulative effect of hits. I mean, just eventually quarterback, you're going to be a little gun-shy back there getting whacked every single time you throw the football. So that was a factor. It just seemed like there was an energy level that St. X had. Again, we talk about Coach Feminist and what he's done in his career in preparing teams to make championship runs. This seems like one of those, Jason, to me. Just the way they came out, their approach, their confidence, their physicality. There was a physical nature on both sides of the ball that St. X came into a rivalry game. I know they're in different sides of the conference, the Mid-States Football Association. They seem to play crossovers all the time, and in the playoffs. It's been a tradition over the years. So this really is a rivalry game. Then you have Coach Karras as a former assistant at St. Xavier, many years ago before starting the Marion program. So there's a history there too. So it was an intriguing matchup, but I'm telling you, just the effort level, the physicality, the level of preparation that you can see out of St. X, they were hitting on all cylinders. And the last two scores of the game were real late in the game. It was not 10 points was not indicative of what this game was.
Yeah, like we said in the early portion of this show, 31-7 late in the fourth quarter before Marion was able to get those scores. St. Xavier is just one of those football teams that obviously knows how to compete in the postseason. And Stuart Ross came on, only one interception in this game. The first time that these two teams matched up, turnovers really killed St. Xavier. In this football game, there were turnovers. But if you go through and you look at it, none of those turnovers for either side ended up resulting in points. And that's always key in these postseason games. If you turn the ball over, what's the other team do with it? Well, neither squad did anything with it. And I think what we saw was St. Xavier was able to just continue to capitalize on what their offense has been able to do. And, came away victorious in this one, got the 10-point win, and they'll move on to play, the number one team in the country as we take a look at this. St. Xavier 8-3, Northwestern 12-0. You can kind of see the comparison of both teams there. And I think the key thing to look at in St. Xavier, you look at that defense, rushing defense, giving up less than 100 yards on the ground, passing only 183. Northwestern has played very good football this year, and they put up a lot of yards on offense. St. Xavier might be the team to give them a really good matchup on offense.
As good and as efficient as Northwestern's been on offense these last handful of years, and their championship runs and their deep runs even a handful of years ago. Offense is a huge part of what they do, obviously. Efficiency with the dual threat quarterback and run-pass balance. St. X matches up with them. I'm just going to tell you right now from a defensive personnel standpoint, and they're going to get a lot of different looks. I think this will be the best defense that they've seen thus far, certainly within the box, within the defensive line and linebackers. I think this will be the best team that the Red Raiders have seen all year. It's going to be a challenge. And if they can muster up some of that same enthusiasm and energy and physicality that they had for the Marion game, this is going to be a heck of a ball game.
Want to reach out to a couple of our commenters so far. Fred, great to have you back again watching this week. Eric Watson did make a comment. Marion is moving to the Midwest next season. That's part of Defiance in Ohio coming into the Mid-States Football Association. So, Coach Karras and Coach Feminist, as long as they're still the head coaches, those two programs are going to be butting heads with each other every single year. So thanks to those guys. Anybody's got any questions, feel free to hit us up on the comment lines, comment on YouTube, and we can see those come up if you've got any questions for us. More than willing to answer those. Going back to this game a little bit, one little misprint I have on this slide, the previous meeting was in the NAIA Football Championship Series round 1. I believe that was back in 2018 when these two teams played one another. St. Xavier getting that 25-20 victory. But they have seen one another before. St. Xavier going to make that trek across Illinois, across most of Iowa, to get to Orange City and play Northwestern this week. And this is indeed going to be a tough matchup for the returning national champions. And it will be one that is definitely up on my screen this coming Saturday when we get ready to check out the quarterfinals of the NAIA Football Championship Series. Onward and forward we go. The team I've talked about quite a bit this year as my favorite to win the national championship, Grandview. And Grandview came out, they got up 28-3. And if you look at the play-by-play of this game in the second half, I did not get a chance really to watch much of this game actually on video. But in the second half, Grandview kept the ball on the ground primarily, ground things out against Dickinson State, and that Dickinson State running game that just ran all over Montana Tech last week, it wasn't happening this week. They got held to 205 total yards. Brandon Zerhoff only had 47 yards on the ground for Dickinson State. Grandview came out in this game prepared to play in the postseason, and they look like a national title contender in this one.
No doubt. We always start with the defense, still giving up less than 6 points a game. Just unbelievable. And we talked about this matchup, with Dickinson State being a physical run-first team in heavy personnel formations, attacking that defensive front. And there's your end result. So challenge accepted, and that defense once again rose the occasion. And we don't talk about the Grandview offense. Do exceptional things offensively. And again, the balance, you see, the passing game, and like you mentioned, the second half playing with the lead, understanding score and situation and be able to win a football game that, a certain way. And it sounds like they certainly did that way to kind of keep the ball away from Dickinson State. So man, oh man, good defense, smart, controlled offense and playing situations the right way is recipe for success, especially in the postseason. Like you said, odds-on favorite. They're going to host throughout, it seems. So, the Vikings are rolling for sure.
They definitely are. Grandview quality football program, got knocked out of the postseason last year. They were probably a title contender last year as well. But this year they seem very focused and ready to go. The team that they're going to go up against is probably the best offense they could possibly see, or that they will have definitely seen to date and might see the entire year, as College of Idaho knocked off Montana Western in the rematch game. College of Idaho won this game earlier in the year. Montana Western ended up winning the Frontier Conference through some losses and everything throughout the season. So College of Idaho had to come out in this game, go on the road to Dillon, Montana to play this this very tough Bulldog team that I was predicting was going to, win this game after losing on a Hail Mary pass in the regular season. That wasn't the case. College of Idaho got up early in this one. They were leading 28-7 at halftime before Montana Western was able to kick things up a little bit in the second half. College of Idaho comes away with that 49-42 victory, and Andy Peters, man, what a player.
No question. As we talked about, not to harp on this again, as much of a snooze fest as Northwestern Dordt was, this was the opposite. This was exceptionally exciting from tremendous quarterback play on both sides. Andy Peters, I'm a huge fan. I've talked about it a handful of weeks now, what I think of him. A true dual threat quarterback that runs as well as he throws it. Playmaker, great decision maker, throws a deep ball well, does everything well. Any type of throw you need him to make, he can make. Very impressive player. And this Palandri, I thought he was tremendous as well. I think he made some great throws. And they're kind of similar players, that dual threat guy that's, it's good on the move and rushing the football as well. And salient, entertaining game. I think it's the last time on that field, the grass field. So it was kind of a weird, footing situation with, I'm sure, some permafrost under that grass field, as knowing too well in my years playing in Montana. But yeah, I thought it was a really, really fun game to watch. I think, like you said, leading into next week with the best defense in the NAIA, Grandview's not seeing a player like Andy Peters. I promise you that. And I think they're very, very good up front, too. They've got great size. And I think they pass protect very well for Peters. And obviously the run game with him being the focal point, I think this is a really, really interesting matchup. And again, we know how good Grandview is. There's no question, especially on the defensive side. But this is going to be something that they're going to be – this guy's scary. I mean, again, looking at it from the standpoint, if I'm a defensive coordinator, I see a guy that runs as well as he throws it. He's big. He's physical. They have a big offensive line. They've got some weapons on the perimeter. It's scary. So, again, they've not – like you said, Jason, they have not seen anyone like this offense. So, going to be very, very intriguing Saturday.
The thing that's so crazy to me about College of Idaho's offense and the way they use Andy Peters, they're not afraid to run Andy Peters, 12 carries, 83 yards, but they will get close to the goal line. They'll go with that Wildcat set. They'll put John Schofield back there. And 4 of John Schofield's 6 carries were for touchdowns out of that Wildcat set to get him into the end zone. So John Schofield was in the end zone quite a bit. And I say that's interesting to me because they're not afraid to run Peters everywhere else on the field, but they get down to the goal line, they go with that Wildcat look, and they end up giving it off to somebody else like Schofield to, get the touchdowns and just seem a little bit bigger set to make sure that they get those 2-3 yards that they need. But this is a scary good offense. And I ultimately think it's going to come back to what Grandview's defense can do, obviously, but can College of Idaho's defense slow down what Grandview's offense can do? Because Jackson Waring is a heck of a football player. He's very much in that Andy Peters realm. He doesn't have the numbers, but he's a dual threat guy as well. This is, I think, the most intriguing football game that we're going to see this next week, because I want answers on just how good Grandview's defense is, and I want answers on just how good College of Idaho's offense is.
So the opposing units are going to make the game, the College of Idaho defense and the Grandview offense, like you mentioned. I mean, maybe. I would bet, and I don't bet like you. I think College of Idaho is going to exceed, Grandview's, defensive scoring number. I think we're going to see more than 6 points. I think we're going to see more than 2 field goals. Yeah. But yeah, you never know. But like you said, it's intriguing because again, as good offense as I've seen, and one of the best players I've seen, Grandview's going to see this weekend.
Yeah, and taking a look at this game as we get past the statistics there for just Montana Western and College of Idaho, you do the comparison of these two teams, both averaging roughly 41, 42 points a game, defensive scoring massively different. But it will be interesting to see, like you mentioned, can College of Idaho put up more points? The scary thing is, if Grandview can hold College of Idaho to 6 points, 10 points, that's really frightening for the rest of the NAIA. I don't think that's going to happen because I think College of Idaho has just too many weapons and that offense gets going and rolling. I think they'll definitely put points up against Grandview, but this is by far and away the most intriguing matchup in the NAIA this week.
Yeah, I think one thing too, from playing against Grandview a handful of times in my career coaching, the balance gives them trouble. If you do both well, if you're one-dimensional, kind of thought Dickinson State's more obviously run heavy. If you're one-dimensional and they can take that away, I mean, Grandview's going to do that, period. I mean, they're so sound in what they do. And it seems to be they want to take, they're going to spend the focus, at least initially. They're going to defend the run. I mean, they're going to do everything they can to gap you up and really cause, situations where you're behind the sticks, you got to throw. And traditionally, they have had tremendous perimeter players. So I guess my question is, from an offensive standpoint, if you're College of Idaho, can those guys win those one-on-one battles on the outside? I don't believe they're going to run it consistently against Grandview. I think it's going to have to be a big play type game. Like College of Idaho, they do a great job in the play action game, taking their shots. I think Peters has to do that multiple times to get some big plays on Grandview. I don't see them grinding out, 80-yard drives on Grandview. It's not going to happen. No. But I think their balance in setting up some of those, play action concepts, and again, running Peters enough to create some of those stressful things where you've got a guy that can pull the football or get that +1 running game, we call it. So, when you run the quarterback, you get an extra blocker, and that's what they're doing. And a team physical in the run game like Grandview, that presents a lot of challenges. That's something they're maybe not accustomed to, seeing true +1 running game with the quarterback running. So yeah, it's gonna be interesting.
And I think the other thing too is, lack of a better way of putting this, what does the bully do the first time they get punched in the mouth? I don't think Grandview has been punched in the mouth yet this season. And I think College of Idaho is going to do that one way or another. It's going to be Peters hitting somebody deep on a pass or a big play. You haven't seen Grandview give up a lot of big plays this year. And what's that defense? Well, how's that team going to respond the first time Peters hits somebody down the sideline and they turn it upfield for 70 yards or something like that? If that happens in this game, how does Grandview respond? And they've gone 11 games this year where they haven't really had to respond that way. They've just been in control of every single game, and almost several times this year in the second half, almost been like a cat with a dead mouse, just flicking it, just let's get this thing ran out and end the ball game. So this, I've said it several times in this conversation, will definitely be the most intriguing matchup of the quarterfinal round. Moving onward. So we go to Florida, and in a game that I was checking out early on going, oh baby, St. Thomas played last week, ran the ball really well. They looked really good against Reinhardt. St. Thomas, they're turning things up. They're going to get Kaiser. No, you're wrong. Kaiser scores 38 unanswered points, comes away with a 45-21 victory. But early on, St. Thomas looked really good in this game. They were up 21-7. Rontavious Farmer was carrying the ball well. He ended up with 236 yards and 3 scores in this game. But you'll go to the other side. Jaden Meisinger, 27 carries, 245 yards, 2 touchdowns. Kaiser ran the ball in this game probably as effectively and efficiently as they have all season. It just took Kaiser a little bit of time to wake up in this game. And once they did, the ball game was over pretty quickly in the second and third quarter. In the fourth quarter, just not a lot of offensive fireworks in this game. Kaiser comes away with the victory and proves why they were the Sun Conference champion over St. Thomas this year.
It kind of seemed like that week off, kind of just a little slow start. Seemed that way, talk about having that week off as opposed to the team that played last week. It's kind of natural to be that way. We kind of saw that with maybe Grandview, with Northwestern as well, having that week off, maybe a little sluggish coming out. So Kaiser's, as we talked about many, many times, is a wild card. I mean, the type of talent that they have, and people traveling distance to play them in the playoffs, at least this round, presents some challenges. So scary team. They've been there recently and playing well again.
Bryce Veasley in a big game situation this year. I don't think we've been able to see just how good Bryce Veasley can be as a quarterback for Kaiser. And as we move into the next round, we move in the next couple games, I think we'll get a little bit more of a idea of just how good this Kaiser team is that made a run to the national championship game last year and lost to Northwestern. So, and the team that they're going to end up playing is a team that also likes to put the ball all over the field, likes to put up a lot of points. That's going to be Bethel of Tennessee, who had a big win over Evangel, 40-13. Collazo had 162 yards through the air. They ran the ball with Smith 21 times for 139 yards. He got into the end zone twice. Got a couple different wide receivers getting that 40, 50, 60 yards, 3, 4, 5 catches, So this is a Bethel, Tennessee team that handled an undefeated Evangel team with relative ease in this game, really turned it up in the second half.
Yeah. Seems like they got a ton of weapons, a lot of players, a lot of skill. And that's kind of their tradition at Bethel since that program started, having just a deep, like you said, multiple guys with catches and, a deep skill group that are dangerous. And you see this matchup, leading into, to next week in South Florida, kind of similar type teams, teams that have, tons and tons of talent going head to head.
I don't want to be the guy that always bangs on the KCAC, but I'm going to bang on the KCAC a little bit. I will listen to people that are fans of the KCAC say, we don't get any respect. You don't give us any respect. This is the opportunity. This game right here, your undefeated conference champion gets a bye, has to go on the road to Bethel, but this is the thing that's going to happen in the postseason. You're going to go on the road sometime, and you get an opportunity now to show what your conference can really do. And you go up against the second place team in the Mid-South Conference, down 14-10 at halftime, come out in the second half, and Bethel just lays it on you and wins this game 40-13. If you are wanting to get respect in NAIA football, and you want to get people start to start believing in what your team can actually do in your conference, pardon me, people start believing what your conference can do in the postseason, you got to put up a better performance in this. You can't go in and lose 27 points on the road. I mean, this was not a good showing for the KCAC this year, Pat, and credit to Bethel for coming away and getting a big victory to advance on now.
Yeah, I mean, you have the opportunity again, like you said, travel is difficult, no question about it. But yeah, I mean, competitive early and just couldn't sustain. So, you wonder if you got bus legs, a long trip, and things of that nature. But it is one of those things. Kansas Wesleyan, really the last team in the KCAC to make a deep run, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, a handful of years ago. So I think they actually beat a Bethel team, if I'm not mistaken, in the playoffs at Bethel. Kind of that matchup with the KCAC, it seems like. So, yeah. Have an opportunity, you got to capitalize. So it's one of those things.
Bethel has got a whole bunch of offensive weapons, and so that's going to make this game against Kaiser very interesting. Now, one thing that Pat and I were talking about before the show is travel. When we talk about travel a lot in the NAIA postseason, College of Idaho is obviously flying to Des Moines. This trip for Bethel to Kaiser is about 965 miles. Typically, over 800 miles, teams will charter a flight or fly into the other place. My trusted source that I have at Bethel has confirmed with me that they will be busing this game from McKinsey, Tennessee, to West Palm Beach, Florida, to play Kaiser. So when we start talking about those bus legs, you're looking at a team in Bethel now that's going to be on the road basically for 2 days or one very, very long day, but be out of their beds for 2 nights for sure to go down to Kaiser and play. So that's an interesting factor as you start looking at this matchup between Bethel and Kaiser.
That's over 13 hours, Jason. That's significant. I mean, I would assume you're getting at least into Atlanta, well, probably southern Georgia, I would assume, day one, if not even in North Florida. Just to cut that down, because you want to try to get some normalcy on a Friday, get people moving around and, go through your walkthrough. You're not having to sit on a bus for multiple hours. So I'm guessing they're going to take a huge chunk, like we talked about, the Thanksgiving holiday. A lot of those guys would travel on Thanksgiving Day. Very, very similar for Bethel to do that, and certainly presents challenges. I guess the one bright spot in the end, you're going to South Florida for a weekend.
Yeah.
But there's no doubt, and having gone through that, we've talked about on the show before, it does present serious challenges. And if you have the ability and the staff that's experienced and can get through those things and try to limit distraction and create as much normalcy as possible in your normal routine, you can be successful on the road on a 2-day trip. But it is certainly challenging.
Coach Jasper's got a great staff at Bethel, and I think he's going to have his squad, ready to go in this one. The thing that I always glance over, because Bethel's got the top scoring offense in the postseason. They average 44.3 points per game. That's best of all the teams that are still remaining, better than College of Idaho. We throw that out there a lot, but what's a tricky statistic that we haven't given enough headline to is their defensive scoring. They've only given up 12.7 points per game this year. That's a really solid defense when you figure that they're playing the likes of the Mid-South Conference, a conference that likes to put up points. You're going up against Georgetown. You're going up against Lindsey Wilson. These are teams that don't win 7-3 every week. These are really good offenses that Bethel has gone up against this year, and their defense has been able to shut them down. I like that matchup a lot. For Bethel being able to go on the road. I'm like you, though, Pat. That's a long ways to go. This is uncharted territory. They haven't been to Kaiser to play. The two teams have played in the past, but it's all the way back in the regular season in 2018 with Bethel getting that win when Kaiser was really just starting off as a program. This will be a very interesting game when we start looking at all the matchups on Saturday.
And we talked about very similar with the stats. I mean, from the analytics part of it. I mean, very, very similar production, both offensively and defensively. So, where's the rubber meet the road here? I mean, what's going to give? Is it going to be, the travel situation? Is that going to be the huge advantage for Kaiser that they need? Or can Bethel overcome that and really show up and play great defense the way they have and slow down, the weapons of Kaiser, and really vice versa? I mean, Kaiser's done a great job defensively as well. But I think if I had to say this, I think Bethel's more battle tested when it comes, at least in their conference. I know Kaiser's played some Division II schools, but certainly played at a high level. So this is going to be another great matchup here as we get in this round of the playoffs. So
I think it was definitely good for Kaiser to get their Most recent first quarter experience against St. Thomas out of their system. You go down 21-7, you got to do some digging down. You got to figure some things out. They did, and that will make, I think, this matchup all the better come Saturday. Let's move on. Let's go to the next one. Who do we got? Oh, yes, Baker and Georgetown. 35-0 at half. Maybe it is the luck of a coach coming on our show the week before a game, and this is what happens, because Coach Oliver, he was concerned with Baker and what Baker was going to be able to do. They had a lot of weapons on the defense. He liked their offense a lot. He was on our show last week, and they went out and put up 35 in the first half, was up 35-0. Georgetown rolled in this game to a 42-21 victory. You can see the statistics there. Darius Neal, 8 carries, 188 yards, 3 touchdowns. It's not bad.
Not bad. Is that good? Yeah, it's pretty good. Yeah.
I think that's pretty good.
It's pretty good.
Let me do the math on that one real quick.
Yeah,
it's good.
It's pretty good. Yeah, yeah. We can start that traditionally. You get your team gets like a major shot in the arm if you're on the Dannelly and Donley show. So
1-0.
Yes, 1-0 and come out 35-0 at half. Yeah, this is just a prime example of the experience of Coach Oliver and his staff. You heard the detail. I mean, this guy knows what he's doing. I mean, talking about Thanksgiving weekend being the most challenging week to travel ever, and trust me, it is. And it does present challenges hosting as well, because you have the guys who want to go home and that sort of thing. But Coach Oliver, he gave us some of the behind-the-scenes details of what he was going to do with his program, but they're obviously prepared. And Baker traveling that weekend is challenging, and Georgetown held serve. I mean, they knew what they were doing, well prepared as we knew they would be, and executed a great game plan and took it to Baker.
Yeah, Georgetown. I mean, this was a game that I was actually traveling back from Nebraska yesterday. I was down there for Thanksgiving and driving back to North Dakota. So I'm kind of, checking a little Twitter and stuff like that, not able to watch this game. And it was just like score. Like, hold on a second. Like, what's the actual score in this game now? It's 21-0 early. And I just kind of went, oh, okay. Well, I don't really need to check out a whole lot after that. I mean, the Tigers looked really good, and they'll need to look really good as this week they're going to go up against a very tough Indiana Wesleyan team that got a hard-fought victory, blocked a field goal late to defeat Morningside at home. I should say Indiana Wesleyan was at home. Don't want to give anybody to mistake what I'm saying there, but 24-21 win by Indiana Wesleyan over Morningside. This was exactly what we thought this game was going to be, wasn't it, Pat?
Absolutely. And again, there's a history with the staff. Coach Rohde being a Morningside guy just since last year. So the offenses are identical, literally identical. So there's tons of familiarity. I think even from a personnel standpoint, they're insanely similar. And I think Indiana Wesleyan is modeling, what they want to do in their program after Morningside, again, from that experience. And they're just eerily similar. And you can see how close they are in this competition, and what a great football game. Probably the best game of the day. This and the College of Idaho Montana Western game as the best games, competitive games back and forth. It's a tough one for Morningside to drop. At the same time, Indiana Wesleyan made the play at the end that they needed to win the football game. So it sets up a great matchup. And really easy travel comparatively, for Indiana Wesleyan, just heading a couple, 3 hours, maybe less, 2:45 down to Georgetown. I think it's a great matchup. They're in Central Kentucky against, very well coached teams, both teams on both sides. Looking forward to that matchup as well.
Looking at that Indiana Wesleyan Morningside game, some of the stats, Xander Stokes, 340 yards through the air, 26 of 42. He had himself a great day, 2 touchdowns. Williams out of the backfield. He's been banged up late, only ran for 60 yards in this game. He's kind of coming back after, a couple weeks of being banged up, having some injuries. You're never going to get fully healthy this time of year, but it's good to see him back out on the field. And then Levi Tidwell, 6 receptions, 90 yards. He had a day as well. On the other side for Morningside, Zach Chevalier, 12 of 17, 140 yards. Brown had 75 yards through the air, threw 2 interceptions, makes up for it on the running side, 21 carries, 186 yards in the score. The Brown kid is a heck of an athlete for the Morningside Mustangs, and it's always a little bit of a shock when you go, oh, Morningside's out of the playoffs. Like, they're not continuing in the postseason. It's been quite a while since we've seen Morningside out of the postseason, this early. But I think the way the season kind of shook out later on, and as we learn more about maybe some of the weaknesses on this Morningside squad, not a complete shock. Also wouldn't have been a complete shock to see them make that field goal, go to overtime, win this ball game in overtime, and then they would be the one traveling this next week, possibly down to Georgetown. So needless to say, a great matchup, exactly what we expected it to be. And Indiana Wesleyan advances now to play Georgetown College. And there's the matchup between these two. Indiana Wesleyan being a relatively new program, they have not ever played Georgetown, which is a little bit surprising when you think about the proximity there. Not so much when you think of the history of the two programs, but here you have when you think blue blood programs of the NAIA, a blue blood program in Georgetown College going up against the up and comer and Indiana Wesleyan. It's going to be a good one.
Again, look at these statistics. Look at the analytics. I mean, so similar in all categories. So again, I think this is another great matchup we have. Again, very well coached teams on both sides, well prepared. I think Indiana Wesleyan will handle travel well and be exceptionally prepared for this game. They've got some veteran players. The Stokes quarterback, I think he's tremendous. I think he played one of his best games he's had this season. Insanely efficient. Is he the big, strong, physical guy like an Andy Peters at College of Idaho? No. But, man, decision maker, efficient with the football, mobile enough to keep the sticks moving for Indiana Wesleyan. He absolutely is. Great leadership as well. So I think he's a tremendous player. Two Indiana quarterbacks, guys that I know pretty well in this game. Garrick Slendeker from Georgetown College as well. Actually, those guys actually played somewhere near each other growing up. So kind of interesting matchup there with those quarterbacks. But they're very similar. Great decision makers, smart players. Know their systems inside and out and detailed in their preparation. So I think this is a great matchup again, Jason.
Yeah, I thought early in the year and really preseason, I looked at Georgetown and I thought to myself, they got a chance. They got a chance to make a little noise in the postseason. And this is a tough task in front of them with Indiana Wesleyan. Sitting at 10-1, their only loss really being and I don't want to call it a throwaway game the last week of the year, but in a game where they were banged up and Concordia just came and threw everything possibly at them, as you've mentioned on this show, Pat. Indiana Wesleyan with that one blemish on their record. They're a team that's very hungry. They're a team that has been deep in the postseason, only to be disappointed. And to think, the winner of this game, we're moving on to the semifinals, and Georgetown in the semifinals, that's a good look. We like seeing that. Indiana Wesleyan in the semifinals, that's a good look as well. I mean, these are two quality programs, well coached, top to bottom type of program. You want to send your kids to go play football for these coaches. I mean, it is a one heck of a matchup that we're looking at here. And I got a sneaking suspicion this will not be the one and only time that these two programs are going to be meeting up in the near future.
Definitely agree, Jason. It's gonna be a great one, no question about it.
Moving onward, so that gets us through all of the recap and all of the analysis of the games that we've got for this week. So I've thrown my picks out there now, Pat, and I want to go through each one of these and talk a little bit more at length. First, with that Northwestern and St. Xavier game. I've got that one being 21-17. And the thing I want to say about Northwestern and St. Xavier is I'm riding the ship of Northwestern being able to get that win at home. I think they can get that win at home. But when we come on this show next week and we find out that St. Xavier upset Northwestern, I'm not going to be sitting here going, oh, how could this happen? Oh, what happened? No, St. Xavier is playing really good football right now. And I'm picking the Red Raiders, but not going to be surprised if it goes the other way.
I think in any sport, Jason, if you look really, really closely, teams, and this is somewhat cliche, an obvious statement, Mr. Obvious Statement of the Year, as I say this, the teams that are hot late, I mean, I don't care what sport it is. It could be baseball. It could be basketball. If they're hot late, they're having that confidence late in the season, this time of the year, last part of the regular season into the playoffs. I'm telling you, wait, St. X is playing right now. The level of confidence, the way that they came out and physically beat up Marion, a great, great top 5 type football team, it wasn't even close. And it was on the road. That tells me a whole lot. Now, can they keep doing it? I mean, it's a challenge, especially back on the road again. It's a long trip. Like you said, you're crossing 2 states. It's not an easy trip. The weather could be a factor. St. X historically offensively, they're a little more balanced this year, I think, than they've been in years past. They've done a decent job balancing out with the run game. But they're an air raid team. They want to throw the ball offensively. That's what they want to do. So, weather does become a factor potentially with that system. But a defense travels like we talked about. We've talked about with Grandview before. If they get to that point, in St. X's defense, the way they're playing right now, that pass rush and what they're doing with the multiplicity, what they're doing to confuse defense or offenses in their protection scheme presents major challenges. I will tell you that Northwestern will be challenged both schematically and physically this Saturday.
Dort was able to get some pressure on Jalen Gransid this last week, and I will say I know St. Xavier's front seven is stronger than Dort's front seven, so that is going to be a very interesting matchup in that one. We go on to the next game. We talked at length about it already. The which immovable object is not multiple force, however you say the saying, Pat. Grandview and College of Idaho. I've got Grandview winning this one 28-14. That seems like the sort of game that their offense has been used to in games like this in the past. I think they're going to limit College of Idaho. Could be 28-21. Wouldn't surprise me either. But if College of Idaho's offense gets loose, Pat, I mean, the Grandview and College of Idaho, that's going to be a crazy, crazy game.
Like I mentioned, I don't think you just grind out drives against Grandview's defense. You've got to big play them. Take your shots. I think College of Idaho has some pretty good perimeter players. Can they win those one-on-one battles? Because they're going to be for the most part. Because again, I will almost guarantee that Grandview will be gapped up, stout on the run game, getting numbers in the box, defending that. They call it the +1 running game with the quarterback. Being the ball carrier, they have to defend run game first. So it can create those opportunities one-on-one on the outside. And can they get loose? Can they make plays in the passing game down the field for big plays? It's not going to happen grinding out 12, 14 play drives against this defense, Chase. It's not happening. Forget it. But I'm telling you right now, I mentioned it before, I do not think Grandview's seen a player like Andy Peters. And what he can do, and schematically, they're very sound. And I will tell you this, I don't think they've seen anybody up front like College of Idaho. They've got some really good looking tackles that can protect. They're stout in the run game. I think the run scheme presents challenges because it's a lot of gap schemes. They're pulling people, point of attacks. They're getting angles on some of those 3-4 slant angle defenses, those defenses that like to move and be quick at the point of attack. They're getting down blocked and people pulling around, big bodies. That can present some issues. So I'm anxious to see this matchup. Again, the style, or I guess the two styles make the fight. Is that this maybe trying to talk?
Yeah, something like that.
Cliche terms. This is interesting.
We got to brush up on our cliches so we can sound more like everybody else. It's going to be a tug fight.
Yeah, right. You got to do that.
Kaiser Bethel. I look at Kaiser and Bethel, and I think points. I've got Kaiser winning this one 42-35. I know Bethel's got one heck of a defense, but I just look at the long road trip in this game, and it just makes me think shootout. I think we're going to see a shootout in this one. I've got Kaiser winning this game at home. I think I've got home teams winning every single game, actually, now that I think about it. I would be much more surprised if Bethel beat Kaiser than if St. Xavier beat Northwestern. Does that make sense? What are your thoughts?
I totally agree. I think this round, I would say experience with its coaching staff and team is worth more than the home team. I will say that unless it's extreme travel. I'm really concerned about Bethel's travel. I'm just going to tell you. I think College of Idaho on a flight, a charter to Des Moines is not a big deal. I think that's an easy one. I think a 2-day bus trip from West Tennessee. People realize where McKenzie, Tennessee is. You are in the western half of the state. It's not like you're in Knoxville. It's a straight shot to south on I-75. It's not that at all. It's a drive. And I'm concerned about that for those guys. If they were chartering, I'd feel a heck of a lot better about that game. And I tend to agree with you. I think it's the shootout game. I would guess. I'm kind of seeing. I think the Indiana Wesleyan Georgetown game could be kind of that too. I do. Yeah, I'm with you. Great athletes and great playmakers, and it's going to be another tremendous matchup with a lot of skill.
The final prediction that I've got, actually, I was wrong. I actually have selected Indiana Wesleyan to go on the road and get the win over Georgetown. I've got Indiana Wesleyan winning this one 38-31. My confidence of all the picks I've made here, you start talking confidence level. I'm not entirely confident on that pick. You got to pick somebody to win if you're me, and I'm going to pick Indiana Wesleyan in this one. That is nothing against this Georgetown team that I think is very capable of being in the semifinals and also pretty capable of maybe making that national championship game. But I think Indiana Wesleyan, just the way that they've kind of come back here in the postseason, they bounced back this week with a big test over Morningside. I think they get this win, by a score. And if you talk to me Thursday, I'll probably have changed my mind, but I've made the pick, and that's what I'm going with.
I think it's a coin flip, and you can go either way for me, and I would totally agree with you. I think it's going to be a great football game. And like I mentioned before, both these coaches have playoff and national championship run experience, and I think that is so important this time of year. So again, the experience is there. Travel really isn't a factor here. Like I mentioned, it's a 3-hour trip. That's not a big deal. These matchups, Jason, are really, really. There's not going to be a blowout. If there is one, I'm going to be totally shocked by it if it happens.
Yeah.
I think these are all classic playoff games. I really do. And we're going to see some field goals at the end, something, to win tight football games. I just envision that.
The thing I like, Pat, is now we're talking quarterfinals this weekend as opposed to quarterfinals last weekend, doing that whole,
right.
If we started with 16 and then we're down to 8 over Thanksgiving weekend. Thanksgiving weekend is the worst weekend to possibly play college football. Screwy things happen, crazy things happen, travel issues happen. And in the quarterfinals, a lot of times that's when we saw those bigger upsets last week because of all the things that went with it. This week, to have the quarterfinals now give us that opportunity to get these teams matched up against one another. I really like the way that the NAIA has played things out this year with the expansion to 20 teams. And, it's a nice looking group as you take a look again real quick at those teams that are going to be playing this next weekend with Northwestern and St. Xavier. For a lot of teams in the NAIA, the trip from St. Xavier to Orange City, that's a long conference one there. That's a long conference game. Bethel and College of Idaho obviously having to travel extensively, and Indiana Wesleyan getting a relatively short run down to Georgetown. So you got the tale of two games when it comes to travel. You got two teams that really haven't ever gone up against one another, traveling from all the way across the country, and two teams relatively close to one another that have heard of one another and recruiting kind of some of the same areas at times.
Yeah, like I mentioned, I think the only true disadvantage anyone has with travel is Bethel. That'd be the only one I really see being significant. And if we get into a weather game, I don't know if it's going to be like in Orange, Iowa, this weekend or not. I'm not sure. Do you know that? I don't know.
I haven't looked that far ahead.
Been a little nasty. Yesterday was a little nasty with cold, and there's some snow on the perimeter of the field.
It'll be interesting. I'll check out the forecast later this week, but from what I've seen, there isn't anything significant coming through. There's a pretty good system that actually went further north than what they thought it was going to this last week. When I was back in Nebraska, they were really thinking all the snow would stay where I was at in Nebraska and south. And a lot of that did hit Kansas City. My brother lives there. He sent me pictures. He's got more snow in Kansas City than I do in Fargo, North Dakota right now. So Go figure that. But that's just what happens this time of year. We're going to see some postseason games in some frigid conditions, and a lot of people are going to wish they were in West Palm Beach for Kaiser Bethel.
St. X to Northwestern is about 7.5. So
it is 7.5.
Significant, yeah.
Significant.
I was a wide state. That's a long trip. I've done it a few times up there to northwest part of Iowa. So
I was the first state that you travel across. By the way, we're pretty much done with the NAIA football talk for anybody that's still hanging out watching this.
Yeah.
I was the first state that when you're taking those cross country travels to, that you go across and you're just like, what is happening? Like, this is just like going across Nebraska is not fun either. Driving across North Dakota is not fun either. But Iowa's like that first state, like you're going through Indiana and Illinois. It's like, oh, bigger city, going here, go through the interstate. We got some stuff here. We're seeing things here. And then you get into Iowa and it's just, whew. And then it just continues in Nebraska. And then in Wyoming, you get to see some mountains. In Denver, same
Right.
thing there. You kind of get to go through that. But yeah, there's a vastness to the state that is definitely underrated. In the
Did you try? I know you
state of
obviously
Iowa.
travel. You travel with the covering the NAIA the way you have, and I know your job. You get pretty good territory you cover. Did you guys do like West Coast trips? Like, did you drive from Nebraska like across country just as a kid, like vacationing? Farm kids, did you do that?
Nope,
I
no.
wouldn't think so.
Our farthest vacation when I was growing up, we went to the Black Hills in South Dakota, or we went to
Yeah.
Kansas City to watch a Royals game. That was
Yeah.
the long trips.
Sure.
We the VSN College Fans Days, we took the long bus trip out to Azusa Pacific. That was not fun for sure.
You guys were road warriors. It was unbelievable. And your setup was great. You sleep on the floor of the bus and all. I mean, you guys had the whole thing going on.
Just
there.
Insane. Like we had an idea that we would like pull over and sleep like in different places, and we had like bunk beds in our broadcast van.
Right.
And that
Yeah.
happened once. We like they slept in the van one time, and we're like, this is terrible. We're not doing this anymore. And we literally, like, these 2-day trips, we would just drive endless. And probably the craziest turnaround that we had is we did Carroll College, Montana Tech. It was a Saturday game, is at in Helena. We did that game on Saturday, turned around, drove back to Nebraska, where we were in Grand Island at that time. Then we had a Thursday night game where Shorter College played, I want to say it was the University of the Cumberlands. I want to say it was Shorter and Cumberland. So we went to Rome, Georgia for a Thursday night game, then went up to UVA Wise because UVA Wise was playing Georgetown on a Saturday game. So we went Helena, Montana, back to Nebraska, to Rome, Georgia, to Wise, Virginia, and then booked it all the way home Saturday night. That was an insane trip. Whoever put that schedule together should have been shot and killed on the spot. By the way, I put together the schedule. I thought that was a good idea at the time. Hindsight being what it is, that was dumb.
Well, that was before GPS. So did you understand how far you were actually traveling? Did you get the old road atlas out? Start figuring out, so you measure the distance, how far that is?
We had the Google Maps then. Just seemed like a good idea. It's like, hey, we can get there.
This old guy
print out the Google Maps.
Print out the
where
Google
we're going.
Maps. Yeah, it's like, yeah, I get that. That's brutal. I remember you left Fort Wayne. You covered a St. Francis Marion game.
Yep.
Quote me on the year. And like, we hung out for a while. Had a few pops after the game. It's like, hey, buddy, good seeing you. And it's like, you're gonna be home like at 9 a.m. on Sunday.
Yep.
It's like a noon kickoff in Fort Wayne. It's like by the time you get out of there, it's like, you're rolling in on Sunday morning.
Yep.
You're driving
game gets over at 4:00. We roll everything up, hang out for a little bit afterwards, get on the road 5:30, 6 o'clock. In Chicago by 9:30, 10, and then it's another 8 hours, 9 hours after that to get home. There was a lot of crazy trips.
You've always been so dedicated to your craft, Jason. I mean, that's the truth. Let's be honest here.
Well,
you're passionate for it.
The thing, it goes back to my upbringing. So I grew up on a dairy farm, and it's not like this hard work that was instilled in me on the dairy farm. It was, I don't want to milk cows for a living. So whatever profession I choose, I'm going to put like the dairy farmer mentality into it. Like, if I got to be up at 4:00 in the morning to do this and do it all night, I guess I got to do it, because you know what? It's better than waking up and milking cows in the morning.
I spent 4 hours on a dairy farm one time. And I'm good. I'm not going back.
Did you burn your clothes afterwards?
Yes. And it's like you take the kids. It's like, oh, look, kids, cows. Look how they're milking the cows. You don't talk about the smell. You don't talk about the filth, the grime. It's not my thing. I'm a city guy, but I'm good.
And even in the business I'm in now, so obviously I work in an office and I go out and I do stuff with co-ops and farms and stuff like that, and you kind of forget, like, after a while, it's like, oh yeah, this shirt, I'm gonna have to soak this for a while, because I can't exactly wear this into a business meeting in 2 days the way that it smells. So yeah,
I bet that's a unique challenge for you. You're on the corporate side of things, but yet you're still getting down and dirty and being on the farm. I mean, it's quite the dichotomy.
It's kind of nice. I like it. It gives me a chance to do both things. It also gives me a opportunity that if I look like complete hell when I'm at work, it's like, wow, had to get out in the field earlier today. Guess I'm just wearing this.
Yeah.
Meanwhile,
do you have boots?
Oh yeah,
Go boots right into a board meeting or what?
Oh yeah. Oh
yeah, there you go. There you go.
For sure. You got cowboy boots, you got knee-high boots, you got snow boots. I mean, I became a boot guy.
Yeah.
I always found it interesting that like you go to certain schools that are not rural schools, you know, they're not out there. And then you run into football coaches like wearing cowboy boots, and that just always threw me. Like there were several coaches I met through the years that like coached in Chicago, coached in Kansas City, and they're like wearing cowboy boots around the office. I'm just kind of like, what are you like? Did you grow up on a farm? Oh no. I'm like, what are you doing? Are you making a fashion statement as a coach? Come on.
Oh, there's a few guys. There's a few guys that really do a good job in their fashion statements. Oh yeah. I used to have a thing like, you kind of scout, the team that you're playing front to back. Let's take a look at the coaches. Oh, this guy, look at this guy. He's fancy. Look at his Twitter account. This guy thinks he's fancy. He's wearing the nice pants all ironed. He's got the PJ Fleck look with a tie and the sweater vest. Oh, look at this guy, Check out the style of the guy, See you're going up against.
I would do that too. Like I would flip through and I would look at some photos and I'd just be like, I'm not going to enjoy this meeting, am I? I do that in my current job where I'm like flipping through and be like, oh yeah, that guy, that'll be an easy meeting. He dresses like me. And you come across him, you're like, I got to go back and be the shirt and tie guy. Like, I don't want to do that.
You see what my dad wears now? He's just going casual. He doesn't care anymore.
Is he?
You get to a certain age. He goes, Pat, I'm a certain age. I just don't care anymore. I'm not wearing khakis anymore.
Is he just track suit guy? All just
Guaranteed.
wind pants? Yeah.
Guaranteed.
Polo shirt, just some sort of shiny overcoat thing. Yeah, there you go.
No more pants with buttons anymore.
It's like I've had enough of that.
That's where he's living. Good for him.
No, that's excellent. The other nice thing is though about the industry I'm in, and I think even in coaching, like if all else fails, if you wear khakis and a polo shirt, like you're fine. Like no matter where you go, you wear khakis and a polo shirt, you're fine. You can do better than that, or you can pull off a nice pair of jeans with a polo shirt, do that whole thing as long as you look good. Like I'm in an industry now where polo and jeans, people are like, man, you got dressed up for work. I'm like, you dang right I did. I'm here to look good.
Yep. Well, I work in the sporting goods world, so yeah, polos and khakis and gym shoes are like the classic look. And I usually wear dress shoes. I was a dress shoe guy, so even my boss is like, you're kind of different. You wear the gym shoes, man. You're selling the shoes too. Like, I got you. So I kind of suck up and put the gym shoes on with khaki pants. But
I can't do that. I'd have to be going to something specifically where I needed to wear the gym shoes with like a khaki or a dress pant. Like I'm like, even then, like I'll bust out the cowboy boots to go with the dressier pants and the polo then. And
never owned cowboy boots. Never had them. And they look so uncomfortable to me. I don't know.
The problem is, I think everybody's experience with cowboy boots, and mine was this way growing up, is you buy a cheap pair of boots for your first one. You never get them broken. They don't fit right. I've actually got 2 pair of cowboy boots that they're more comfortable than wearing shoes sometimes. Like you're spending $300, $400, $500 on a pair of boots that are going to be that for you. So
get what you pay for, huh? Yeah. See, I'm not a country guy, man. I don't like the music. I don't like me being on a farm. It's fish out of water, man. That's not my thing.
I would love to do it. It would be awesome.
That's the one that we don't have in common. I can tell you that much. You being the farm guy, I am the antithesis of that. So yeah.
Well, buddy, it was a good show this week. We've kind of hit that hour time, so I suppose we should probably, and we've babbled long enough here we should probably tell people.
No questions tonight, huh?
No, the last question that did come up, better conference in 2023, Mid-East or Mid-South? Mid-East. I mean, the Mid-South is good. Lindsey Wilson barely missed the playoffs. You got Bethel in the postseason. You got Georgetown in the postseason. Both those teams are in the quarterfinals. You can't not say like the Mid-South is nowhere close to the Mid-East, but I just look at the Mid-East top to bottom and the teams that didn't make the postseason and say it's a better conference right now.
No question. Teams that are 500 that league are real good. Trust me. And we'll certainly have one great unit, if not the entire team being quality. So Mid-East is no joke.
And I think the other thing to just bring up briefly and made me think of it, because I kind of bagged on the KCAC a little bit. I'll bag a little bit on the Frontier Conference only to say the same thing I said about the KCAC. The Frontier Conference, a lot of people want to say this is the best conference in the NAI. This is the top conference in the NAI. You can go a long way this week to making people believe that. Not even, getting a victory, but competing strong and very well against this Grandview team. If you get the win, people are going to go, yeah, Frontier Conference. If you lose and it's close, people go, yeah, they're quality conference, but Grandview's just good. If you go into this game against Grandview and you get beat 28-3, 28-10, 35-10, 35-14, you're not going to improve what people are thinking the Frontier Conference is nationally, because right now a lot of people think best two conferences, the Mideast and the Frontier Conference. And I'd say that's accurate, but if you come out in this game and you lay an egg, it's going to be tough to argue.
Why they play them?
Exactly. All right. We should wrap it up. Pat, as always, I appreciate you coming on the show, doing this with us. We will be back next week, same time, same place, to break down the semifinal games and to see our reactions to what happens this week. So, Pat, thank you again. He is Pat Donley. I'm Jason Dannelly. This has been NAIA Football with Dannelly and Donley. You have yourself a great weekend and enjoy the quarterfinal week of NAIA football. Thanks, everyone.